The human brain is one of the most complex systems in the known universe, and its development begins long before we speak our first words or take our first steps. In this video, we'll explore how the brain develops in infancy and why early experiences play such a powerful role in shaping who we become. When a baby is born, their brain has around 86 billion neurons, almost the same number as an adult. But what makes a baby's brain different is how those neurons are connected. At birth, the brain is like a giant construction site, filled with potential but still under heavy development. In the first few years of life, the brain creates connections between neurons at an astonishing rate. This process is called synaptogenesis. In fact, by the age of 2 or 3, a child's brain forms over 1 million new neural connections every second. This is the foundation of everything: movement, language, memory, emotion, and learning. The brain builds these connections based on experience. For example, if a baby hears language often, the parts of their brain responsible for language become stronger. If they're held and comforted regularly, the brain strengthens circuits related to trust, bonding, and emotional regulation. This is where the concept of neuroplasticity comes in. Neuroplasticity refers to the brain's ability to change and adapt in response to experience. In infancy, plasticity is at its peak, which is why the early years are so important. Research shows that early stimulation, such as talking, reading, singing, and physical touch, helps the brain wire itself in healthy ways. The famous study by Hart and Risley in the 1990s found that children who were exposed to more language at home had better vocabulary and academic outcomes years later. This became known as the 30 million word gap, although more recent research suggests the quality of language matters just as much as quantity. But just as experiences can build the brain, lack of stimulation or chronic stress can hinder development. For example, studies of children raised in severely deprived environments, such as Romanian orphanages in the 1980s and 90s, showed that neglect and lack of interaction led to long-term deficits in cognition, emotion, and behavior. This doesn't mean a child's fate is fixed, but it highlights how early relationships and environments can set powerful trajectories. Now, as the brain develops, something else important happens: pruning. You can think of the brain like a garden. During the first few years, it grows lots of connections. But as the child grows, the brain starts trimming away connections that aren't used, just like a gardener prunes a plant. This process, called synaptic pruning, makes the brain more efficient. It's the brain's way of saying, use it or lose it. So if a child is often read to, the language circuits grow stronger. But if certain circuits aren't used, like those involved in a second language or musical ability, the brain may eventually trim those away. Another key factor in infant brain development is the role of caregivers. A baby's brain is shaped through relationships. When a caregiver consistently responds to a baby's cries, facial expressions, and sounds, it builds a sense of safety and trust. This process, called serve and return, helps the baby learn that the world is predictable and secure. In contrast, when a baby's needs are ignored or unpredictably met, the brain may adapt to expect stress or danger, even in safe environments. Over time, this can affect emotional regulation and stress responses. Finally, let's touch on critical periods and sensitive periods. A critical period is a window of time when the brain needs certain input to develop normally, like how babies must be exposed to light to develop normal vision. A sensitive period, on the other hand, is a time when the brain is especially responsive to certain experiences, but development is still possible later. Language is a good example. Learning is easiest in early childhood, but not impossible afterward. So what does all this mean? It means that the brain isn't just built by biology, it's built by interaction. Genes provide the blueprint, but experience does the construction. The first years of life are not only about growing, they're about wiring. And the connections formed in these early years can influence a person's learning, emotions, relationships, and resilience for decades to come. In the next video, we'll explore how children form emotional bonds with caregivers, and why attachment in early life matters more than we might think.